So my name is Adam Talamantes. I work for the Regional Class Research Vessel Project at Oregon State University. I'll be your co-host today with Dominique Brooks. Dominique, do you want to introduce yourself? Dominique, are you there?
I told myself to remember to hit the space bar and I didn't. So thank you, Emily, for that nonverbal reminder. So I'm Dominique Brooks. I work with Adam at Oregon State University in pre-college programs, and I will pop back in later to do some fun things with you all.
All right. So let's get started here. So what is the Regional Class Research Vessel Project? It's at Oregon State University. That's why the ship with the beaver there. We are the lead institution leading construction for the National Science Foundation, the grant that they awarded. It's a construction grant. And we're building 3 new research vessels for the University National Oceanographic Laboratory System. Well, essentially that is UNOLS. What UNOLS does is book time on ships, similar to the way NASA books time on telescopes. So they're the organizers of it all. NSF is the money backer, and OSU is kind of the lead contractor, I guess, you know, the project coordinator. All right, and we have 3 research vessels. They'll be at the University of Rhode Island. Oregon State will be the operating institution of another one. And then also University of Southern Mississippi will be another one. And so the naming of the ships at OSU, they've named ours the RV Tawny, which means offshore. University of Rhode Island has named theirs RV Resolution after the long line of ships named the Resolution, so kind of more of a colonial nod there. And then also the one off the Louisiana Gulf Coast there, operated by University of Southern Mississippi, is being called RV Research Vessel Gilbert Mason for a civil rights activist there, who was also a doctor, an All-American swimmer, and led the desegregation efforts for equal access to the waterways in the region. And so hopefully the construction will be done by 2023. So that'll be awesome. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube. So if you would like to find out more, there's even a webcam. Hop over to that link you see in the PowerPoint. All right, so now here is our first kind of poll the audience question. They're gonna see a poll come up. But at what grades do you think you start imagining yourselves as STEM professionals? So when do you start being like, okay, I see myself in that position? So go ahead, we'll have the poll pop up, or you can reply in the chat if there's an error with that or something on your device and you can't get into it. But yeah. And also, as I just see in the chat over there, grading assignments takes longer when they're on the web. Ooh, I bet. Yeah, pen and paper grading is much faster. So we got some 6th grade. See, one person replied. I'm putting there. Are now viewing the poll results. Awesome. All right, I see most of you put down elementary school. That would be a very good, accurate guess. I was hoping to get you the several gotcha questions broken out between 6th and 12th. And so the reason why that's important right here is, so mainly as students develop, they develop interests. Those interests change over life, but also relational to those interests, they also develop an identity. And in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, we're talking about a STEM identity. And the critical period for that is sometimes around 4th and 5th grade. So for you, those of you in high school or middle school, as students enter into your class, they may feel that they already have like a resilient STEM identity. They may be really interested in STEM, or they may need some encouragement to realize like, oh, I could see myself as a STEM professional. So keynote there is it starts out real young, 4th, 5th grade, and then it develops over time. And that having conversations around STEM careers with adults and models is something really important. And that's where teachers like yourselves come in. That's where some of these activities that we're going to be exploring today come in, because they help students realize my interests, things that I like to do, those are actually skills, and they're marketable skills that you could use in a profession and professional career. So we're going to start this off with some general kind of Holland code, Holland activities that'll be done. And then we're going to come back in and think about directly about ocean professionals. And then we have some really awesome Emily, who's on the call right now. She developed some really awesome offline self-directed searches to look at those kind of ocean careers. And then also we have some offline self-directed searches for kind of pen and paper that help youth talk to an adult or talk to a parent in their home about, you know, what could I do after high school? And that is a big concern right now for the distance learning for all, is preparing students to graduate. You know, some seniors, I'm sure that if you teach the upper grades, are in your class that are like, well, what just happened to my senior year? So, you know, not that we can fix it all, but this is a way to help them think about what's next for me. And I think that's a good, important conversation to have. All right. So right now, I believe I'm going to be passing this over to Dominique Brooks. We're going to do some awesome technology sharing here, and she'll actually be able to take over the screen that I have up. So all yours.
All right, thank you, Adam. This worked perfectly in practice, so of course it's going to go perfectly now that we have the real thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the theory behind the development of the activities that we're going to do in just a little bit, and sort of why it's important for students to start thinking about themselves in terms of their interests and where they fit in the world of work. So John Holland, famous psychologist, he came up with this idea that based on interest groupings, people tend to fall into 6 personality types in terms of the world of work. And those 6 areas are realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional, which the activities are based on. So I will definitely go into those a little more in depth. He also came up with the idea that the work environments can also be categorized into these types. And basically, if you're one type of person who can find a career within that same area, that you will have a higher likelihood of experiencing job satisfaction. So in order to do that, we first have to work with students to help them understand who they are, what their interests are. And so
Dominique, you're muted.
thank you for that, Emily. So the next few activities that we're going to do are designed to help students explore activities within these given interest areas. All right, so first activity is under the category of realistic. So these are what we call the doers. These folks like to work with their hands, so they prefer to physically interact with their environment to accomplish a task. And so if you have any students who are athletes, they would be considered realistic. Also, any type of technician. And so the activity for this is just simply called Do It. So for the Do It activity, basically use whatever you can to find, whatever you can find to build the tallest tower in 60 seconds. And students are asked to record the height of their structure and the materials they used. Again, these activities have been adapted for our current situation so that they don't necessarily need to be in a classroom to accomplish them. And they can also do things with their family members. So if they have siblings or if parents want to participate, that's an option as well. So spontaneously, my example popped up, just using whatever's in the house to go ahead and erect that tower. So just something simple. One second while I get control back. All right, that should be us. There we go. So the next category under I is investigative. So these people prefer to use their brains. They think a lot, and they're what we call the problem solvers. So we have, for example, a marine biologist and also psychologists. The last picture is a dietitian or nutritionist. And so figure it out is our activity for this category. So for this category, teachers would create a list or multiple lists. And for each list, it would be, you would just list 3 to 5 characteristics and ask students to find an item in their home that has all of those characteristics. And so it gives the students an opportunity to kind of solve a problem. And so the example that I have here is find an item that you can lift with one hand. It has more than 2 colors and it's not made of plastic, which I almost painted myself into a corner with that one, but I was able to find something. So just a Mickey Mouse mug kind of fit that. And so in terms of submitting responses, students, just based on what they have to use, they could submit a picture, they could draw a picture, they could describe the item, but you know your students and what they're able to do, so you can be flexible with how they participate. Next category is artistic. So these are the creators, the folks who like to think outside of the box, the innovators, and the people who are in tune with what people might want to see. So we have animators, sneaker designers, and ocean cartographers. And so in this category, the activity is called Create It. Pretty straightforward. So the idea is that you would give your students an abstract concept and ask the students to creatively represent it and provide an explanation if necessary. So for example, they can write a poem about something, draw a picture, share an item in their home that represents it. And so for this example, I just came up with find a creative way to represent the concept of happiness. And then I just went to a simple word cloud generator online, took a picture and uploaded that. But very easily, if there are things in students' homes that make them happy, they could use that. The next category is social. So these are the helpers and the people who like to work with people. So they prefer to interact with other people as a way to accomplish the task at hand. So we have our awesome teachers, folks who are in media relations, and then of course, our people in the medical professions. So this activity is called Say It, or it can also be called Write It. So the instructions are create a caption for the provided image. And so this is also an opportunity to help students understand that just because they do something every day, things that they don't consider skills are actually very profitable in the world of work. And so they should start thinking about things they like to do as potential avenues to pursue careers. And so kids sit around all the time making memes and looking at things online and coming up with clever phrases for them. And so this is just an activity that capitalizes on something that they just do naturally. And so there was this image. And so the caption for it, new student introductions. Yeah, so just something simple. And again, you can have as many of these as you like to fill up time and to help students kind of learn the concept and the category. Next category is enterprising. So these are our persuaders and our leaders. So these are the folks who in their jobs, they like to convince others of doing things. So if they're giant marketing campaigns, it's on them to figure out how to get the world to listen to their message. And so we have brand managers and also ocean advocates. So people speaking on behalf of the ocean, trying to get people to do better. And so this activity is called Convince Me. So for this activity, just think of a fictional character that fits within the 6 categories. So one for each category, provide an explanation for why you place them in their respective categories as well. And so I realized that at this point, you wouldn't have had an opportunity to go through all of the categories because there's still one left. But along with your materials, the students will have an image that explains each category thoroughly. So they can use that to complete this activity. And so the examples I chose were in the realistic category. We have Wreck-It Ralph. It's pretty self-explanatory. He uses his hands to either create or destroy things. And then for investigative, we have Tony Stark, who his whole job is looking at problems and coming up with technological solutions, in addition to, of course, being an Avenger. All right, so our final category is called conventional. And so these are the organizers. These are the folks who work really well within a given structure. They like things ordered. And a lot of times they will find themselves in careers that rely heavily on numbers, but they don't have to. So we have pharmacists, and we also have ocean navigators in this category. And then also computer programmers, anyone interested in developing video games or computer programs would fall into this category as well. And so this category, this game is called Get It Together. So for Get It Together, so teachers, you would create constraints for a list and have students find items that fit within the constraints. So it's similar to one of our previous activities, but with a few more layers that actually matter, that you hit them all. And so you can add more constraints or less constraints depending on what you feel like your students can handle. So for the example here, I just said create a list of 3 items that increase in size but decrease in weight that can be found in your home. And so for this one, I came up with a 20-pound weight, a shoebox just full of random things. That's my mobile junk drawer, and then a yoga mat. So as you can see, they increase in size, but they decrease in weight. And so here's that image that I referred to. And so if students are needing a little more assistance, or if you just want to talk about these areas in more detail, this is a very good resource to do that. And so I'm actually going to pause and allow you to read this over and then just jot down what you think your code would be, just based on a description of what these categories are. And just remember, your code is the first letter of each of the 3 categories that are at the top of your list. So for example, if I feel like I'm realistic, investigative, and artistic, then my code would be RIA. All right, so if we want to just share in the chat what our codes were, just based on what we think about ourselves according to these descriptions. Awesome. So I see we have some overlap with realistic and conventional stuff. I definitely don't have a C in my code. I'm very abstract. I think my C would be replaced by an A. So I'm actually RIA. It just happens to work out that it's a very easy example to use as well. All right, so I am now going to turn it over to Emily so that we can be led through doing these activities together. And once I get to the next screen, which it's not wanting me to go there for whatever reason. There we go. So we're not gonna break out. We're gonna stay in this group, but you are encouraged to unmute your audio and video so that we can actually have this like a small little focus group. And so we're going to do some introductions, run through the activities, brainstorm alternatives for our activities, and then talk about some things that we're going to take away.
Thanks, Dominique.
Sure.
So no, you're fine. While we are figuring the PowerPoint back out, if each of you kind of want to go around and introduce yourself, like it said. So your name, what institution or school you work for, kind of where that school is, and then your top 3 Holland codes. So I will start. My name is Emily Nicholson, as Dominique mentioned. I work at Oregon State University. I'm currently isolating in Southern Oregon though, just because I can and I love it. And my 3 Holland codes were CRS, so conventional, realistic, and social. Dominique, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go. So again, my name is Dominique Brooks. I work at Oregon State. And as I mentioned, my Holland code is realistic, investigative, and artistic, or RIA.
Excellent.
Or AIR. That makes more sense given my sneaker addiction.
That's true. Caroline, do you want to go?
Sure. Yes, I'm Caroline Burdick. I am a high school teacher. I teach ecology and biology down in Southern Oregon. I teach at Cradle Renaissance Academy, which is in Central Point, just outside of Medford. And then my codes are RSI with a little bit of C, just a little.
Yeah, I know. I had 4 and then the 2 extras.
Yeah.
Thank you. Adam.
All right. I mean, just so you know, every time I touch my mouse is why the thing goes where on the PowerPoint. But I would be realistic, investigative, and social, so RIS.
Excellent. Slade.
Hi there, Slade Sapora. I teach high school biology, marine biology in Tillamook, Oregon, up here on the North Coast. And mine would be realistic and investigative. What was C?
Conventional.
Conventional. God, I don't really like that word, but I'm going to have to go with that. I worked as a biologist, a wildlife biologist, for about 10 years doing data collection, and I just love data tables. I love huge data sets. They're fascinating. They're fun, and they're super informative. I've been working with my kids on that, and I have a 6- and a 9-year-old, and we're doing data collection in our backyard now on birds and stuff. And just
Oh wow, that's awesome.
yeah. So
The Hummingbird Project. I bet.
Right, and kids always want to prove their ideas correctly, right? And they always get upset when you don't, and so it's so hard to work with them on that. Of it's not about you, man. It's about whatever you discover, right? And being wrong is just as awesome as being right. So,
According to Einstein, absolutely.
yeah. So, data helps us do that. It's humbling.
Definitely. Jay.
I'm Jay Well, and also from pre-college programs. And I would say that I'm an ICR, I think kind of in that order, but like heavy on the I. I come from like a research background, and anytime that I can try to figure out something using data, using observational skills is really exciting for me.
Excellent. Thank you. So I will let you know kind of how we're going to do this. We are going to practice what the activities were that Dominique mentioned. And we're going to go each one at a time. So we're going to review what it was. We're going to have about a minute to do the activity. We're going to come back, kind of quickly share, if you would like to, what you found. And then we're going to discuss some alternatives for what you could do, or alternative answers that your students could give at the same time. And then towards the end of it, we're going to do kind of some takeaways as well. So Dominique, I believe either you or Adam, whichever of you have control currently, could you go back to that first section.
All right. So Adam, can you take it back to the realistic slide?
All right, will do. All right, so use whatever you can to find and build the tallest tower in 60 seconds.
So
I already know what I'm building.
I will start a timer. And so everyone kind of look around you, and then we're gonna have 60 seconds to build the tallest tower that we can. And we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, 15 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop building. So if everybody wants to come back.
I did want to throw the caveat in there that when students are doing this, I guess it won't be so like disjoint, like out of the blue, because I feel like now it was a race to find the stuff and then build it. I mean, you can make it a race. I love that with the competition, but it's also up to you if you want to let students gather materials and then 60 seconds to build it. But yeah, no, that was a challenge.
So does anyone want to share? You can see mine in the background. All I did was I put a lamp on a stool. So what are some other activities that you can think of that you can have your students do that would be hands-on, that they can physically do? I agree, Slade, having them kind of look around and do it with what they have is always kind of fun to bring their environment into it.
Cup stack.
Ooh, cup stack. Yes. That's always fun. All right. Want to move on, please? Okay, so the next one probably will not need a full minute, but I like, Jay, you said brainstorming what type of materials would be best to build a tower. Kind of doing that before you start would help what you mentioned, Dominique, kind of that throwing them into it. Go. So for this, what was that?
I said, which is also fun, but for other reasons.
Yeah. So for this one, we are going to find an item that you can lift with your hand, has more than 2 colors, and is not made of plastic. So I am just going to let you go. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds because it's going to be a lot easier than building a tower. All right, so if you want to hold it up, and like Dominique had mentioned earlier, This could be a picture, it could be a drawing, it could be kind of a text, email, or handwritten. So I have my mug. It looks like Caroline has a scarf or a blanket. Close enough. Let me see what everybody else has.
Technically a really ugly sarong.
Oh, okay. It's green. I think it's very pretty. Adam has a can, aluminum can. Dominique has a box of Claritin. Is that what that is? Excellent. Jay has a piggy bank. Excellent. And then Slade has, you want to lift it up a little bit, Slade? Oh, a plant. Excellent. I was thinking of doing the plant over my left shoulder because some of it is green and some of it's brown, but I didn't want to do that one. So to make it a little bit easier on the what's an alternative, can you think of one or two more characteristics that we can add to this list that would make it even harder? And you can either chat or you can say it, unmute your mic, either one. We're a pretty small group. Oh, something that's fluffy or another adjective. My tea mug is not fluffy, so that would definitely not. Lift with one hand, but is bigger than your hand. I like that. Excellent. And like this first one, the possibilities for this is completely endless. I could lift my dog. Caroline, I saw your dog come up. I could lift my dog and it's 2 colors. Yeah, so the possibilities are endless. Has more than one purpose. I like that too, definitely. All right, so the next one, artistic. This, for me, ranked pretty low, so it's gonna be a little bit tougher. But we are going to use happiness. So you are gonna find a creative way to represent the concept of happiness. And it could be happiness to you or happiness to others. I'm gonna give you a minute to look around and think about it, and we will come back and share. So go ahead and start. Find that one artistic representation of happiness. About 15 seconds. Three, two, one. Excellent. So everyone should be back. I will share mine. My idea of happiness is where I am right now. I'm in Southern Oregon at my family ranch. So this is my most favorite place in the whole wide world. It's just been happiness for me forever. So that would be mine. I would submit either a description or a story or a picture. And then I'm gonna take my video off as I move so I don't make anybody sick. And then Dominique, do you want to share what you had?
That looks like a big old Mario pillow.
So it's not a pillow. It's a canvas drawing of Mario. So Mario, just for me, it's Nintendo. It's childhood. It's carefree. It's, even though it's plugged in, it's my way of unplugging from the world. It is absolutely my go-to to get a smile back on my face.
Excellent. Let's see what Slade has. What do you have, Slade?
unmuting. Here we go. This is dorky, but this is a picture frame that my kids made me, and it's a picture of us together, and then they wrote their names around it and drew some kind of a chicken with the number 7 and some sea creature on it. And yeah, anyway, we have fun together. So that's it for me.
Perfect. Jay, what do you have?
I have a picture here. Let's see. I got to give up to my screen here. See if, I don't know if you can see this. This is a picture of a family rafting trip. And so doing things in the outdoors, rafting, hiking, backpacking with my family. That's what that represents.
Excellent. Thank you. Adam.
So I'm in a room that's kind of like my kid's play area / toys he's aged out of and clothes / spare bedroom. So in here, I found one of his old favorite children's books, Itsy Bitsy Spider. And it is, what's super cool about this book is like it's a little finger puppet. And so like that was something he like loved as a kid. It was like, oh my God, Itsy Bitsy, it's a puppet. And yeah, so that's why I picked that.
I'm sensing a dad theme going on here. What about you, Caroline?
Not going with the dad theme. Sorry.
No, okay.
No, but I'll go dog mom. This is definitely, she makes me smile every single day. So every day, she's like the goofiest. And so anytime that I need to laugh, she's the one. Juniper.
Fantastic, thank you. So what are some other abstract concepts that you could ask for an artistic representation for? Either a poem or a picture. Gratitude, definitely. Data, Jay. Success, ooh, I like that, Dominique. Yeah, so the possibilities are endless, and as Dominique mentioned earlier, they're extremely customizable for your students. You know your students best, so you'll know kind of what would fit their learning and their lifestyle. So the next one we are going to do is social. Thanks, Adam. So for this, we are going to kind of focus on this picture, and you are going to come up with the best caption or meme that you can. So one more.
And then do you just want to do the share out in the chat then? So
yeah, that works. So go ahead and pull up.
Everyone type it in the chat.
The picture.
Oh, the picture. I didn't know. There we go.
And then we're going to think for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to share. So you have some time to think. So 30 seconds starting now. All right, and then go ahead and put that in the chat box. Slade, I like that. It's due when? It's time for your intervention, Woody. This is my safety circle. Yes, it's true. I've given up on spoons. Mine was going to be, or I'll type it. No, I can't. So it looked to me like they were listening to a scary story. They were all surprised.
I would just like to say really quickly, these were, I think I laughed at most of these. I wish you all were around when I was creating this PowerPoint.
So the example here was new student introductions, but the possibilities are absolutely endless. And Dominique had mentioned yesterday, this kind of ties into what youth are already doing, creating memes and things like that. So kind of tying it into what they're already doing will give them a sense of understanding, definitely. All right, so our next one is going to be enterprising. Or like that, Caroline, exit ticket idea. So just putting that up, and then in order to get out the door, you've got to come up with a meme or something like that. So enterprising the persuaders, this was not my top one personally. So we need to convince you a fictional character that fits each of your categories. So what we are going to do to make it slightly shorter is you're just going to pick your top 3 and do it. If you have extra time, you can do the other 3 as well. But you are going to find a fictional character that fits in each of the categories. So I'm going to give you a minute. So does everyone remember what your top 3 are? Hopefully. And then you have...
If not, it's in the chat.
Perfect. If not, it's in the chat. Thanks, Dominique. So I'll give you a minute, and then I'll kind of see if everyone's looking at me sooner, or if you need a couple more seconds, I'll give that. So a minute starting now. 10 more seconds. All right. So my 3 are conventional, realistic, and social. And to be completely honest, I couldn't think of many in a minute. I need a lot more time than that. So realistic, I got Michael Jordan because we were talking about Space Jam, my sister and I, earlier this morning. So that's the athlete that popped into my head. And then social, helpful, I got Woody from the last picture, because in every single Toy Story movie, Woody and his friends are always trying to help people. So we're gonna go down the list. Adam, you wanna kind of talk about yours?
Yeah, I picked the DC character, the Flash, because they're realistic. They're like, depending on which one you go with, they're like a pharmacist sort of, but they're very helpful because they work in a crime lab, at least on the TV series. So I was like social, investigative, and realistic. My first choice was Batman, but halfway filling that out, I realized that Batman is not very social. I mean, he helps. But...
Yeah, definitely, yes. So it's interesting, Adam, what you did was you took all 3 of your categories and put it into one character, where I was doing one character per category. So it kind of goes to show that everyone can have slightly different representation of what the activity means to them. Jay, you want to go?
Yeah, I struggled with this one. But here in the chat, I put the 2 that I came up with first. So investigative, Inspector Gadget or Penny, if you're familiar with that cartoon, and then conventional, maybe Velma from Scooby-Doo. And then I was thinking realistic would be my other one. And I struggled with that one. Maybe the Roadrunner? I don't know. I don't got a good one for that.
He does run around a lot. Caroline.
I'll put it in the chat. I'm a Grey's Anatomy fan. I've watched it since it started forever and ever and ever ago. So I chose her. So I'm realistic, investigative, and social, and she fit all 3. So that's why I chose.
Fantastic. Excellent. Dominique.
Okay, so I first want to acknowledge like the variations on this activity are awesome, and leaving it open, I think would give the students an opportunity to figure out which way works better for them. But yeah, this is, I think it's great whether you pick one character with all 3 or one character for each. I did the one character for each, so I kind of cheated because two of mine are already on the PowerPoint. So Ralph and Tony Stark. And then my third one was artistic. And so I went with Christopher Robin, just given his imagination. So yeah.
Excellent. Slade.
Hi guys, I really struggled with this one mainly because one, I struggled at first, and then two, I got distracted because my family just came home and we're unloading stuff right now. So I'm going to pass on this one if that's okay.
No, that's perfectly fine. So this activity I will mention is somewhat like the activity of the ocean career exploration. So what they will do is they'll look at different careers, and then they'll assign different codes for the careers. So this is a good introduction to the activity that they'll be doing a little bit later.
And I did also want to mention that the reason why that last activity is in enterprising is the convince me part. So the explanation for why a character is in a certain place is the most important part of that particular activity, just to make it clear like why it's in this category.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dominique. So the last one we have is our conventional or organizers. So get it together. You are going to find 3 items that increase in size but decrease in weight. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that, starting now. 3 items, increase in size, decrease in weight.
Okay, Emily?
Yes.
I was going to make a slight adjustment to that, just because I will acknowledge this one took a little bit of time. So just for the sake of time, I would say like find 3 items and then create the 2 constraints based on the 3 items that you have. So come up with your own category, like as teachers, just to think about feasibility, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
All right, 5 more seconds. All right. So I was very excited to do the 3 items that increase in size but decrease in weight. So that's what I'm going to do. My first item is my coffee mug, tea mug. And I went with height and not overall size, but I guess they all work. My next one was a book, which was taller and a little bit lighter. And then my last one is my puzzle box lid, which is larger, but definitely lighter. So you can either share the 3 items that you found with this, or you can share your items and your 2 constraints. So Dominique, do you want to start?
Sure. So the new category that I came up with based on what was in my line of sight is something that is it's electronic and it has to fit in the palm of your hand. And no duplicating, so you can't just grab 3 remotes like that would be cheating. So phone, Lifeline, so my Amazon Fire Stick remote, and then Nintendo Mini.
Okay, excellent. What about you, Adam?
I got for my small heavy, I got Xbox controller because this room also has an Xbox in it. And then I went with some headphones as my middle one. And then I grabbed a pillow because it's also a spare bedroom. Pillow!
Excellent. Caroline?
I'm not going to show you mine because they're kind of bigger, but I did like a pot, like a planter pot, which is smallish, but definitely heavier. And then I have like one of those poofs. That was the second item. So this, and then a dog bed, which is definitely bigger, but much lighter than the poof.
Excellent, thanks. Jay?
So I thought about this a little bit differently. I thought about trying to figure out like one item that would decrease as it increased in size, it decreased in weight. And I realize it's not exactly perfect, but I came up with compressed gas. So as it becomes uncompressed, it's bigger. And if you're looking at similar volumes, it's less weight. And ice, but I didn't get a third one.
Well, that's great. No worries, Slade. Thanks for joining us. So that kind of concludes those 6 activities. So what you will do now really quickly is thinking of the activities. What were your 3 favorite activities? And then write those letters down and then let us know if they were different or the same as the first 3 that you thought you were.
And then Adam, if you want, just for the sake of time, because I think we have like 5 minutes or so left, like pull up the SDS stuff. You're muted.
Sorry, just going over what that self-directed search worksheet looks like. So after students do this, they talk about their careers. They can go further into ocean careers. These are printed. They also are online. And what they do is they go over kind of, a data engineer spotlight of an ocean career. And then it asks them, if I can just go up, where do they think it fits? Here we go. And this is done through Nautilus Live. Nautilus Live is a really good exploration vessel crew. Their main goal is education. And right here, so they would read over the position, what they call it codes, why they'd assign them. And so it's kind of a venue for them to think about the interplay between interest and career and going back and forth. The activity with just a self-directed search, it goes over, which is kind of a premise. This would be something that you could print out and send home with students or send home in a digital format. But if you do send it home with parents in the home or a friend or some sort of mentor, it asks them these questions before they get started. So lifestyle questions, where do you want to live when you're older? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? It goes all the way down to education and career preparation. Like how long do you want to go to secondary education for, to higher ed? Like what is your plan here? And then also, it goes then into their interests. So this is where they put their code. So realistic or investigative or whatever. And then it has them think about job zones. So these careers that they'll look at are shorted into job zones. So high careers, little careers, no careers. And then, high preparation, low preparation, minimal preparation, and they kind of select a job zone. But what pairs this throughout this kind of whole thing is they will have to, going kind of, I believe right here, this part, for part 1, they do a self-directed search. So what we've been doing as these games and these activities and thinking about our interests, those are an interactive self-directed search with the caveat, it's not really scientifically sound. It's just a good way for them to start thinking about it, playing with that idea. And then those self-directed searches look like this. So you mentioned that you're a high school teacher. So this is the one that we have for high school students. So it asks them questions, what are things that they like to do? And thinking about that, and they go through and they check off everything here that they may like to do, and that gives them their total. There are other options for the self-directed search in here. There's picture versions. These would be good for middle or elementary or English as a second language learner, because there's if they speak Spanish, it's also there. Here's the middle school version, which is like slightly different. So it is nice to have students kind of think about what are their own codes, what does my survey say, and just think about themselves more from all these different kind of vantage points. And then once they're done with those self-directed searches in that worksheet, it asks them to create a list of 10 careers they'd like to explore. And so here's the careers list by interest and by job zones. So these are careers that they can look over and add to that worksheet that they want to explore.
Adam, we're still looking at that first worksheet.
Oh. You're still looking at that one? Okay. Did you happen to see the survey? So this is the survey part for the high school, so what that looks like. So that's the checks and everything going through there.
Excellent.
And this is the last kind of job zones right here. So what they would do in that worksheet is kind of think about where they want to be, how much were those lifestyle questions. They'd go and they'd fill out a survey, and then they'd think about their job zone. So how much preparation do I want to have after high school? Then they'd select a list of these jobs to explore further, which then they transcribe back to that interest and career worksheet. And that would be a good kind of summary of going all the way from, what are these Holland codes? How can my interests tell me about the environment of work and the world of work? Exploring some ocean related careers, and then kind of going through with this very reflective type activity with people that are with them in the home that they can talk to. That's the advantage, I would say, of the pen and paper one. But if the students prefers to do it on their own, there's also an online Spanish version that's linked in the PowerPoint slides. The students can totally go through that there. So it just gives them that flexibility to continue exploring careers further. There's also, I believe it's like ONET, which a lot of these resources are adapted from. Also, there's California Careers, which has a K-12 lesson, but it's more for standard classroom stuff. So there is really good career preparation resources out there that are noted throughout the activity and the PowerPoints and such. All right.
And I just wanted to mention that the purpose of the Holland activities is just to help students start to think about themselves in terms of where they fit in the world of work, and also start to develop a language and vocabulary for how to communicate that and express that, and then to help them navigate like where to start looking. So it's a conversation starter.
All right. And so, Caroline, if you're here with us next week, we're going to go over human-centered design. So a bit of an engineering activity where they'll learn how to make a kind of COVID-19 task, thinking about their design process, kind of a metacognition, and then do a longer drawn-out human-centered design. The theme for us is backpacks, but kind of like working with someone else they can interact with to invent something for them. So that'll be our topic for next week. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.